If you use Google for anything in your TPT business, or if you don't use Google for anything in your TPT business, this episode is going to change your mind because we have Google expert Adrienne Farrow here, and she's sharing the biggest time waster that she sees TPT sellers committing all the time. She's also sharing her top 5 productivity tips for working within Google. And guys, my mind was absolutely blown during this conversation with her. I got to ask her some Google questions that I'd been wanting to ask for a while, like which is better, uploading a product with the TPT upload tool or uploading a Google Drive product with a PDF with forced copy links? And she answers that question for me. She also talks about how she prefers using template/preview versus a forced copy link. And she's going to be sharing that within the conversation today as well. You don't want to miss a single second of this. Let's go ahead and meet Adrienne. Hey, Adrienne, how are you?
Not too bad today. How are you doing?
I'm great. And I'm super excited about our conversation. We were chatting a little bit before we got started. And as we chatted, I was like writing down all of these notes of things that I wanted to ask you. And I'm super, super excited because you're a Google expert. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Tell us about your teaching journey and how you got into being a Google certified Google educator and how that weaves into your TPT business now.
Yeah. So I was in the classroom for 10 years and taught everything from kindergarten was the first grade, and I ended in high school special education. So I had quite the journey in education space. But one thing that was always consistent for me was I was one of the first adopters of technology. Like I was the first one to get the iPad cart and use it with my students. I was the first one to use Google Classroom with my students, etc. And it was right around like 2015, 16 when Google Classroom was really starting to gain popularity that I found out I could get Google certified. And I jumped on it and I learned whatever I could about being a Google certified educator, and I got my level 1 and then I got my level 2, and then the pandemic hit. And with the pandemic, I found that I was naturally giving my colleagues information on how to do everything to do with Google because I had been doing it before. So I was running PDs, I was sharing templates, I was doing a whole bunch of different things in our virtual professional development. And that gave me the experience that I needed to become a trainer. And then at that same time, I was becoming a VA in the teacher pay teacher space. So I started working, not to do my own store, but working with other teacher pay teacher authors to help digitize what they had in their store so that it could be used in classrooms during the pandemic. So I found that that started growing, and I transitioned into a new job as an education technology specialist. I had a really interesting position where I took a school that had no technology to using technology for distance learning because of the pandemic. I used all of my Google knowledge there. And then my family moved. We moved states, and I had a daughter at the time and was pregnant with my son. And I decided, hey, I'm just going to do this full time. So I jumped right in and I started specializing in digital product creation for teacher authors. So helping them take their PDFs and moving them over to a Google product of some kind, slides, forms, docs, etc. And then just sharing my Google knowledge with people because, just through being a trainer, and also as a trainer, I have access to a community of other trainers. So if I don't know how to do it, I can go ask, the group of how to do it, and just trying to make people's lives easier because Google just has a lot of really cool things to do that can just save you a couple minutes of time. I'm very googly and very passionate about Google.
I love it. And I got connected with you because you're going to be a presenter at Teacher Seller Summit, which I'm so excited about. And one of the things that you put in your application was like, I want to do a live too, and I want to answer questions. And so we are so excited. When I sat down to talk to you today, like I had my list, I was like making my list. Like I said, I was like, oh, I have questions that I want to have answers to. And I know that there are people who are listening and they're probably going to be thinking the same thing. Like, oh, I wonder about this. Well, Adrienne's going to be at the Teacher Seller Summit and she's going to answer those questions. But today she's going to be sharing biggest time waster that she sees TPT sellers fall into, and then 5 of her best productivity tips as well. And so I'm really excited. So let's start with the time waster. Where do you see TPT sellers wasting their time?
Their Google Drive. And the fact that their Google Drive, I know.
Guilty.
You all can't see Lauren cringing right now, but yes. And the biggest thing is not only not having it organized, but also not knowing the functionalities about what you can do. So my number one thing that I tell teacher authors is you are running a business, you need a business Google account. And it's actually in the terms and conditions that you cannot sell under a personal account. So you need to have some sort of a Google business account. It's only $6 a month for the cheapest one, but I actually recommend the $12 a month package. And the reason why is this nifty thing called a shared drive. And if you have any sort of VAs or team members that work in your space, the shared drive is where it's at, because Google, if you create a document on Google, you become the owner of it. And so if I'm a VA and I'm creating a document for my client and I create it in my space, I'm the owner of it. And so somehow I need to transfer ownership over to my teacher author because my client, so that they become owner of it. Because what if my drive was to collapse, or what if I was to decide I'm no longer going to pay for it? That person has lost their ownership of their product. So the shared drive, all of that hassle, because you create in that drive and you're technically both owners of it. And then the teacher author can just transfer it out of that drive into their Google Drive and it becomes their property. It becomes their ownership. This is one of the big things I'm going to talk about during the Teacher Seller Summit. It makes it so that you don't have to deal with all of that hassle, because I've helped some people who they've been moving drives from, one place to the other, or their VA says I'm no longer working and they're like, oh, what about all of my stuff? So it really helps to lessen the burden down the road. So
okay. See, I didn't even know that this existed. And I've run into this problem with my VA before, and I didn't know that this was a possibility. And so literally what she does is every time she creates a document, she transfers ownership to me. And then I have to not that I've done it, but I have to go back to every single email that has ever been sent to me and accept ownership of every single document. So this is going to be a game changer. I'm definitely attending your session.
The reason why you need the $12 a month plan is the $6 a month plan doesn't have shared drives. So you need that $12 a month one. And then also, if you're not on the same domain, it makes it almost impossible to transfer ownership. So if you're in the same domain and you both have the same, URL at the end, transferring ownership is easy. But if you're working in your domain and then another seller's working in their domain, it gets confusing. So shared drives is where it's
okay. You've convinced me. Okay. So I'm blown away by this first thing. So let's get into what we should be doing. What are your top 5 productivity tips for teacher authors?
So, number one is back to the Google Drive, get organized. And I'm guilty of this as well. Figure out what your system is, have limited folders. So, you put all your business things in one, all of your TPT things in another, all of your course resources in another. And then you can, branch it out from there, but keep it visually so that you don't have so many things that you're looking at. You can also color code them. You can right click on the folder and change the color of the folder if that makes you happy to see different colors, and add emojis. You can add emojis to the title. So that helps with organization too. And then to go along with that, every time you create a resource, so every time you have a new Google slide or whatnot, automatically go and put it in the folder you want it to go in. So title it, there's a little folder button right next to it, move it to that correct folder, then you don't need to worry about it down the road. I know I fall into a bad habit of creating it and then it just goes into my drive and then I have this big long thing of all of these. Yeah.
And so you're trying to remember what you named it so that you can search for it and you can find it. Yeah.
100%.
All right. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that, of not having that organized. So what's number 2? Keep them coming.
Yep. No worries. Number 2, have you heard of Google Tasks and Google Keep?
I do Google Keep. I've not used Google Tasks.
So Google Keep, for anybody who doesn't know, is like an online bulletin board. You have a bunch of little notes, post-it notes that you can use on your sidebar in almost any Google tool that you're in. So Gmail, calendar, whatnot, you'll see little icons for calendar, and then there's Keep, and then there's Tasks. So then you're able to bring things like from your email right over to Keep, or there's a Chrome extension for Keep so that you can add links in and things like that. I just did on my Instagram, your Google BFF, a 5 Google Keep tips. So you can head on over there to get some more concrete tips. But Google Keep's great for collecting information on the go. And you can also share that with colleagues or friends so you can collaborate on notes. You can get reminders to remind you about that. But then Tasks is a to-do list. I have a to-do list in my project management software, but I also have a to-do list in Google Tasks. And the reason I like that is because you can actually add times and dates to remind you of doing certain things, and then it puts it on your Google Calendar. So if there's things, especially reoccurring tasks that you want that reminder, or you want to have that visual on your Google Calendar, Google Tasks is pretty awesome for that. And you can create multiple lists. So you could have a business one, a personal one. You can put subtasks under your tasks, etc. It's a mini project management to-do list built into your Google.
I'm looking it up right now, like as we speak. I've actually been using Google Keep for the exact thing that you're talking about that Google Tasks is for. So this is literally what I've been using Google Keep for. It's just making checklists and all of that. So this seems like this is going to be much more streamlined. So I'm excited about this.
I would recommend Google Tasks before your to-do list, and then Google Keep before keeping images or links or things you want to refer back to in there. And then you can, tag notes and color code them and things like that. But I see it just as more of like a bulletin board. Like you would write yourself a Post-it note and put it up on your bulletin board. I don't want to forget this.
Yeah.
But because Tasks has that ability to go right directly into your calendar, it just has that element of productivity a little more than Keep does.
Yeah. Okay. That's exciting. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So what else should we know?
All right. Filters and labels on emails. Do you use these?
No. I also don't use Gmail though either, really.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you use Gmail, these are really good tips to have. So filters will basically, you're telling Gmail how to organize your emails for you. So say every time I get an email from Lauren, I would like Gmail to do this with it. I would like Gmail to star it. I would like Gmail to put it into this folder. I would like Gmail to archive it so I don't see it. I'd like, so basically you're telling Gmail, even before I get to see it with my own eyes, please do something with this. So it's great for like mailing lists, or like, so every time you get an email from RTA, please put it into the RTA folder. So then I can go back and see that. So it just helps to keep things organized a little bit more on that end. I often put in filters as I see things that I'm doing repetitively, like I'm always starring this or I'm always doing this. So I wouldn't recommend like going into your Gmail and then automatically like, hey, let's just create a bunch of filters. Do it as you're seeing like habits come up. And then you can also label emails. So you can give them a color and a name. So every time I get one in from a client, it has a blue label, and then it's putting it in a folder that's everything's tagged with that label. So then it also gives you that visual element when you look at your email of saying, okay, this is from these different people.
That's very handy. They also have, and I don't know if other email service providers have this too, but Gmail also has canned responses. And which is super cool. And it's like I said, I don't use Gmail. I am a level 1 Google certified educator. Ooh, yeah. Not that I use any of it, but back in the day when I was teaching our district, they allowed us to do that, which was really nice. But I remember being super impressed by that, like by the fact that you could like go ahead and create that canned response, which in business is really nice. And you don't realize how often you're giving the same information to different people or even the same people over and over again. So that makes it really nice too.
And you can schedule emails in advance too, if that's something that is helpful for you. So sometimes I've written an email, but I'm like, I don't want to send that until 5 p.m. because I don't want to deal with that today. I want them to know at the end of the business day, but then I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you can actually, instead of clicking send, there's like a little arrow for a drop down menu, and then you can schedule it at a certain time.
That's fancy.
Another fun fact.
Yeah. So what else can we do?
All right. So my fourth one is color code your Google Calendar.
Okay.
I have like 6 or 7 different emails all in my Google. And I was finding it challenging to like see all the calendars I wanted to see at one time. So I made a decision that my business calendar was my only calendar. And then I was actually going to put my personal life on there and then also connect to the courses and things like that. And then I gave everything a color. So when I look at it, you can right click on a task and then you can provide a color, or right click on an event and then provide a color. But then I know looking at my calendar, anything I see that is purple is a personal thing. Anything that I see as yellow is a work thing. Anything that I see as red is an appointment that I have to go to. So I can get a really clear like look at my day and be like, okay, I have this that I have to take care of. I have bandwidth in these areas type of thing. So it's been a huge game changer for me just to have that visual look at it. But I highly, highly recommend color coding your
I
calendar.
like that. I like that.
Yeah.
If you have, say, you're an Apple gal like myself,
Yes.
can you still use Google Calendars pretty easily?
Yes, the two will work with each other. There's a way of adding a calendar to your Google Calendar where you get the URL for your calendar from iCal and then put it in. I'm an Apple gal too, but I use it the other way. So I do all of my calendaring on Google, but then I look at it on my iCal app, my calendar app on my phone.
Okay.
And then I have it set as a default. So every time I add in a new event on my phone, it just goes to my Google Calendar. That's the calendar. That is my default calendar there.
Okay.
So I'm not a big fan of the Google Calendar app. I will say that. It's just not my cup of tea. I love the iCal app more, but I use the Google Calendar because it works more within my business and what I do.
Yeah. Now we have one more tip, right?
Yeah.
One more?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What you got?
My tip is to get all the apps.
All the
Google, all the apps. So every tool almost, I think, all has an app on your phone. And the reason why I say this is because sometimes you just get that idea or something on the go and you got to just jot it down or look at it somewhere. So you can get a Google Keep app. So you can jot down a note in your Google Keep, or if you're looking at a link or something on your phone, you can pop it in. You can get a Google Tasks app and you can get the reminders on your phone for your Google Tasks. I do recommend having the calendar app just because it can provide reminders and stuff. Like I said, I'm not as big of a fan of the interface as I am with iCal. The one I actually use a lot, to be honest, is Sheet.
Me too.
On the phone.
All the time.
It's not like super user friendly on the phone. It gets kind of clunky, but I find myself needing to add information on a sheet on a regular basis. So yeah. And then Docs and Slides have those too. Docs I'll use sometimes. Slides, the only time I like to use it is you can easily take pictures if you have them on your phone and put them into your slide just by having them connected on your phone. So I'll use that a lot to make sure I bring in any pictures I have from my phone over. So
I love that. I also use Slides on my phone to take like a screenshot of a product that I want to drop into a mock-up. Sometimes I find that to be a little bit easier because I know it's going to fit correctly or something like that. But yeah, I love that. And I'm the same way. I find myself all the time. The only one that you can't get from your phone is the actual form. Like you can't edit the form, which is super annoying.
Yes.
But as long as I have usually it's the responses that I'm needing to look at. Like, okay, did this person do this thing that they were supposed to do? And so as long as I have it exported into Sheets, I'm good and I can go and check it. So I agree. I totally agree, because sometimes, even if it's as simple as, you're participating in a collaborative event with other TPT sellers and you need to go and take a look at the sheet. Somebody just sent me a sheet like this last week and there's like the calendar date on it and little links in there. And if I didn't have the app, it would be very annoying to try to use that interface in the web. So I love that. Okay. I have a couple of questions for you. The first revolves around the change. I'm going to say the change that happened last year. But can you talk to us about this change? So and you can correct me if I'm misunderstanding some pieces of this. Okay. But, we have in Google Forms, because you said this plays a role in it when we were talking beforehand, and I was like, oh, do tell, I'm so excited to get this information. So in Google Forms, when you go to share a forced copy link, even if you put it as view only permissions, and in fact, I don't even know that you can do view only permissions. I think that's the issue, is that you can only give edit permissions. So if they change that word copy back to the word edit, then they can edit your original, which is obviously problematic. But then with all the others, Google Docs, Jamboard, Slides, you can provide that forced copy link that's a view only version, so that even if they go back and they change that word copy to the word edit, you're not screwed. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the what happened was with Google Forms, and I don't know exactly why or what the reasoning why. Google likes to change some things and then not really let us know that they've been changed. And so we find them out on the fly. And so what happened was that the way that we were getting links by going to collaborate, then go to view only, or to switch to anyone can edit, even if it was in a folder that was all view only, the link that you were getting wasn't working. What it is now is that link that you get in the collaborate button is a responder link. It's not a link to the actual form. It's a link to people putting in their responses. So you have to go now to the URL bar and copy the form URL at the top. And then what I have found with troubleshooting with clients is the best practice now is to use the template preview rather than a forced copy for Google Forms. So erasing all the way through the word and then replacing with template/preview. And it just seems to cut down on user error. It seems to make it so that you are not having issues with your buyers on them accidentally changing the words or whatnot. I don't know what it is about it. And I recommend template preview for other ones rather than the forced copy. And I think it's some sort of, I guess, user mentality and the fact that so many people might be used to now knowing what a forced copy is, but then they see the template and they're like, oh, I'll just click this button and then I get my copy. And so in my experience, both with clients and myself, you get a lot less people asking for access. You get a lot less people messing with your links and getting in and changing things with template preview rather than the forced copy. So for all the other ones, it's the same process as before. Forms was the only one that had an issue. And I've heard some teacher pay teacher sellers saying that they're having no issues with their links as they were set up before. But then I've also heard teacher pay teacher authors saying that they're having issues with their buyers and their link. So if you do have issues, that's my recommendation is to go take that URL up at the top and then put in template preview.
So that was my other question that I had written down to ask. One of my other questions, that is, because I'd had someone say like, oh no, you're supposed to do it this other way over here. And I was like, are you? Because template/preview, like they thought there was a problem with that they were going to run into an issue. So I had that own personal question where I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't know where they could possibly run into an issue, but sometimes you just never know when somebody tells you like, hey, there's a potential problem with that. So my last question is, because I have a personal preference on this, is it better to use the TPT digital upload tool or to use a PDF with these forced copy or template links?
Mm-hmm. So this is a hot button topic. I hear a lot of people have preference on either way. I'm not going to say one is better or worse. There's pros and cons to both. My personal preference is a link in a PDF. And the reason why is you're in control of your link. You're in control of you're in control of making sure that that is correct. If there's any issues with your buyers, you can go right into your document and figure it out. There is a common issue with school districts not wanting to allow access to outside third parties that are requesting access. Because when a buyer goes and downloads something off or wants to connect, they're asked for their permissions for their drive, which is very standard. It's a lot of different places ask for permission. It's not that they're going to go in and change anything or do anything. They just need the ability to take something and put it in your drive. And so there is some issues with that there, but it's personal preference, honestly. I think they both have pros and cons to it. I'd love to hear what your personal preference is on it.
Yeah, mine are actually different reasons, like non-tech reasons. And that is just, first of all, I want to be able to take that same product and upload it. I'm working on my Shopify store right now. I want to be able to just put it right into Shopify, right? I can't do that, if it's uploaded into TPT. So might as well keep the PDF with the links, and I can use the same product in both places or no matter where I list it, because I do have some resources on Classful as well. The other reason, and I think this is the most important reason to me, is that I want my buyer to have to scroll past my terms of use page and have to lay eyes on it. And I want their eyes on my email opt-in as well. So if I put it inside of the Google Drive and I've got like my terms of use separate from this over here, I'm not going to put my terms of use in with where the students are going to be working. So then I would have to separate them. And I'm just not really that, So that's my personal preference. But I do understand where some people are like, no, like if I'm buying a resource, I don't want to have to download your product, then click your link, then make the copy and put it where I want it. I get all of that. So I do think there are pros and cons to it. Obviously, if you're using a Google form, your work is probably more protected using TPT's upload process. But for all of their resources, it's pretty much equal, right? For like,
And I just started my own TPT store to provide resources to teacher authors. And my freebie is a digital product organizer. So it's a Google sheet where you can go in and just put all your links for any digital product. products that you have so that you can go back and just really quickly grab those links if you need them. I just found that in my experience working with clients and then my own experience, you can get link heavy real fast. There are, so many different links that you need when you have Google products. And so it provides a space where you can just have your Google Drive link. So you can go get your original copy, your TPT link, your forced copy link, your template preview link, just trying to make it as streamlined and as easy as possible for teacher authors.
I like that. All right. Well, Adrienne, where can we find you, or where can listeners find you if they want to connect with you and learn more incredible Google tips?
Main place is over on Instagram. So I'm at Your Google BFF on Instagram. I have a brand new Facebook group starting up. Well, I should say it's been around, but I'm re-engaging and resurrecting it up. Also Your Google BFF on Facebook. And then my website is www.adriennefarrow.com for information on my services and other things that I provide. And then my new store on Teacher Pay Teachers is Adrienne Farrow. You can just search for me. It's just my name.
I love it. And I think I actually saw that you just said it was your new store. I think I just saw in a group where you had posted and you were like, oh, I put my first product up or something like that. And I was like, wait a second, I know her. And then I was like, oh, but she does Google stuff. That's why it's a new store. So That's awesome. Congratulations on your brand new store.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do a lot of work. I also have a Google Bootcamp called the Digital Product Bootcamp, and I provide some templates and resources and stuff through that bootcamp, and then it leads into a larger course called Digitize with Google Academy. But that's one of my goals, is to get more templates in the hands of teacher authors, trying to make it as easy as possible for you to use Google tools, because so many schools and students and educators use Google because it's free for schools or very low cost. Yeah. And it's so easy for teachers and students to share things with each other. And so if schools are using it already, if you're going to digitize your products, why reinvent the wheel? And I just want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to do that. So
I love it. Well, I love it. And I'm so looking forward to your session at Teacher Seller Summit and to learning more about that shared drive, because I really need that. So I'm excited for that. Thank you so much for being here today, Adrienne. Thanks so much for being here. If you want to connect with Adrienne and check out that post that she talked about with 5 tips for utilizing Google Keep, you can find all of those links down inside of the description below so that you can connect with her. You can also catch her Google productivity session at Teacher Seller Summit, July 6th through the 9th, and you can get all of the information to join us for TSS down inside of the description as well. Thanks so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it and subscribe. When you like one of my videos, it helps other people find my videos as well. And if you want to continue the conversation and share your biggest Google tip or something that you really enjoyed from this chat with Adrienne, then you can leave a comment down below and we can continue the conversation. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. I'm going to see you in the next video.